everyone. This is Laura, and I'm back with another episode of your Cosmic Tour Guide. I hope you're having a fantastic day, night, evening, or morning, wherever you happen to be at. Today, we are talking all about time and how time is different and it shifts when we move from the 3D to the 5D. It's one of my favorite things to talk about, and it also happens to be the module that I am currently working on within the Ascension Self-Paced program. So I'm like super jazzed and really kind of going down the rabbit hole. I even have like 3 pages of notes to go over with you, but I promise that it's going to be pretty exciting. So we want to understand that first and foremost, 3D time is more of a construct that is a reflection of the 4th dimension. So every dimension is a reflection of all the dimensions in some way, shape, or form. And though time is more predominant in the 4th dimension, since the dimensions are kind of, think of them like Russian dolls, those dolls that kind of go in one another, that's kind of how the dimensions are. That's kind of how they exist. And so 3D time is more about giving the human the opportunity to keep structure and to organize and to kind of understand their progress. Like, how will they know, their age? How will they know when they need to pick up their kids? Like, time is a means of structure and order, and it's very egoic in a lot of sense, because it's kind of this sense of control. I need to know, I need to control what is happening and when, and it can get a little bit kind of convoluted. Time is either our really good friend or it's our bad friend. But one of the best examples that I heard, and I wanted to show you, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, then I encourage you to watch it over on the YouTube channel. But you can also visualize those little accordion fans that we sometimes make with paper. And you can see here, like, how the paper's folded. In 3D, we're kind of living on this razor edge of time right here in this fold. We're just kind of right here, right on this razor's edge. That's like our version of time. Now in 5D, we have the capacity to expand time, to expand time to our needs. And we also have the capacity to contract it to our needs. We even have the capacity to hop out of it, which is something that many people, especially during this quarantine, have felt super, super strongly, because all of the common ways by which we gauged time suddenly went out the window. Most of us didn't have to be out of the house at a certain time because we were working from home. We had kids that were not going to school, so we didn't have that way of measuring time. So it's so understandable that in the construct of this quarantine and the 3rd dimension, many, many, many of us have felt as though we're kind of living or existing outside of the typical constructs of time. And you really are. All of those you are experiencing, the collective is experiencing essentially this more fluid, this more malleable 5D sort of essence of time. Time exists in its own way, shape, or form in every single dimension. It's not just the 3rd dimension or the 4th dimension that time exists. It's just that as you get up into the higher and higher realms, there's less of the rigidity. 3D time and the time matrix is very, very rigid. Like I said, we are literally existing time-wise on the razor's edge of this fold here in this accordion fan that I folded up. And as we get higher and higher up within the dimensions, pretty soon we find that the past, present, and future are all existing simultaneously and actually interacting with one another simultaneously. And that one is a really hard one to understand, but it is the capacity to see both where we've been, where we are, and where we're going to go. And a lot of it has to do, a lot of us, when we fully embody 5D, we're not going to be interested in looking outward and looking back into the 3D, because that kind of gets us into that trap of like egoic, I guess I would say like egoic comparison. We're mostly interested time-wise in the 5D of the present moment, really focused on where we're at right now. Yes, we have the ability to see where our choices are going to take us, but for the most part in the 5th dimension or the 5th dimension, we're more concerned with time in the present. And in the 5th dimension, we have the capacity, if we do want to go back, we can go back and actually heal events that we know had a ripple effect and created wounds either within ourselves or other relationships. Now, why would we want to do that? Well, because in order to ascend, in order to fully embody that 5th dimensional energy, we have to clear our shit. We have to clean out all of what we've been plugged into, including our trauma, our wounds, etc., from the 3D matrix. That is how we have the buoyancy and the capacity to bring in and embody those 5th dimensional energies that are available to us now. So going back and having the capacity to heal is really the only reason in the 5th dimension or in 5th dimensional embodiment that we would actually go back. But by and large, we're more focused on what's happening here and what's going on here. And it's really, really wild because in the 5th dimension, we don't have the rigidity. We don't have the constructs of, I've got to be here at this time, or, if I'm 5 minutes late, then this is going to happen. There's a whole different relationship that we're actually discovering now, whether you're, still fully quarantined or kind of so-so in between, you're still experiencing how by the removal of certain benchmarks by which we built time and our day around, by those being removed, you already are beginning to embody a much different relationship with time than you've ever had before, especially in the 3D. Now, again, the 3D is filled with words that we want to pay very, very close attention to. And this is kind of what I would call, sort of part and parcel to how you begin to kind of move out or unplug from the time matrix. And one of them is to be very, very cautious with your words. How many times have we said, if I'm late, I'm, going to get fired. I'm running out of time. I need to find a partner now and have a baby because I'm running out of time. Life is short. We only have so long on this planet. Like, we have lots and lots of phrases and words that we use all the time, and mostly so unconsciously, that basically just further plug into that time matrix that the collective sort of consciousness has created. And what we need to understand is that typically when we're saying those things, when we're running late for something, when there's something going on, we're not just sitting there going, oh yeah, I'm going to run late. We have emotion backing that up. And when you combine emotion with thought, you have a very powerful alchemy that takes form. And again, you're feeding not just your connection to 3D, but you're feeding the very thing you don't want. You're feeding the very thing that you don't want to happen. We want to be in that 5D embodiment where time is spiralic, where we have much more fluidity, where we understand that we don't have to exist on the razor's edge of time, that we have the capacity to expand and contract it at will for our own reasons. Another way of unplugging from that time matrix is to stop wearing a watch and to stop checking what the time is. And I know for some this is much easier than it is for others, but the more you begin to play with it and the more that you kind of build a relationship with your higher self, which is a whole nother topic for a whole nother show, you don't need to know what time it is every single day. You instinctually get the little ping from your higher self, oh yeah, I gotta go pick up the kids. Or, oh yeah, it's time for me to leave for work. Or, oh yeah, I've got to go downstairs and meet with the client. Take off the watch, stop looking at, the clocks in your house, in your car, on your devices. Like, just begin to distance yourself from the concept of time. This helps a great deal with what we've already experienced, because many of us are already in the throes of this because of what we've been dealing with COVID-19 and what we've been dealing with, having like those benchmarks that we talked about, having those removed has already kind of altered the way that we interact with, perceive, and feel the notion of time. Another way is to be very mindful of how you're doing things. Most of us have a very rigid schedule. We go to bed at the same time every day. We wake up at the same time every day. We have coffee first thing in the morning. We read the newspaper, or, throw on the daily news, or we read on our phone, et cetera, et cetera. The idea being you don't have to stop doing those things. You just want to begin to kind of shift and pivot them and maybe do them a little differently, or do them at different times. Try to be more fluid within your own schedule even. Now, again, I know that that is not always easy for everyone. We all have our unique schedules and our unique situations, but there's certainly some way, even if it's just for a little bit, that we can get a little bit more flexible and fluid within our relationship at time. And again, I feel like many of us are already there on account of the fact that we've already shifted our relationship with time. Let's see here. Oh, yes, what you watch. So certain things that are timed, certain things that are, they're on at the same time every day, whether you're a Jeopardy fan or a Seinfeld fan, or the highly charged things like the presidential election and the debates and the conventions or mass sports events. All like those latter ones are highly, highly emotional charged events. They're highly anticipated and scheduled time-wise events. So when you are participating with those events, you are unconsciously, or maybe consciously, you are agreeing to participate in the time-space matrix as it exists right now. So we want to be very careful with how we are interacting with certain media, and that includes going online. If you wake up first thing in the morning and you check your phone, you may want to begin to kind of just shift that. Like maybe you check it after you've done something else in the morning. You know, you can still do these things. You just want to begin to make some small shifts and changes so that your relationship is more fluid than it is rigid. Rigid is 3D, fluidity, spiralic, interacting, you know, past, present, and future simultaneously, that's 5D. And that's where we want to be, that's what we want to be embodying. So pay attention to kind of your relationship with that, and you know, kind of, you know, get very much conscious around your relationship with time. You're already in the beginning stages of changing it anyways. So start playing with this a little bit. You know, see how long you can go without checking the clock. And if it helps to do it on a day where you don't necessarily have a bunch of things planned, see how not looking at the time for the day, how it shifts your relationship with the day. You know, do you feel like your day was much longer? Did it expand? Or do you feel like it was much shorter and it contracted? But also play with it from the sense of, you know, say you have to be somewhere and you're you know, fearing you're going to be running late. Rather than moving into, oh my God, I'm going to be late, remind yourself, because in 5D, you are creator, you get to choose, I can arrive on time. And play with, if it helps to visualize yourself expanding that accordion fan, then do it. Get visual about it. And just visualize that time expanding. Don't look at the clock. Don't worry. Don't get stressed about kids that are holding you up or people who are driving or lights that are changing. Just keep affirming to yourself, I can arrive on time. And when you get there, just know I've arrived on time. You know, you don't need to check the clock to be sure. You just know, because that's how it works in the 5D. You go from trusting or doubting to knowing in your bones, I've arrived on time. And just begin to play with that a little bit. And like I said, you can do it, you know, when you're running late for something. You can also do it, you know, when you don't have anything to do, by not checking the clocks, etc. But all of those are really wonderful ways to begin to morph and shift your sort of relationship with time and continuum from 3D to 5D, which is really juicy and much, much more fun. So I hope that you have enjoyed this little chat about time, space, continuum. If you have any questions, I'm always happy to answer them. And as always, if you enjoy this, please share it with your friends, your family, share the link, share it socially. Let's get this information out to as many people as we possibly can. I love you all. Have a wonderful day. Mwah.